All right, ladies and gentlemen, I've actually got the generator rolling for this one because I don't want any interruptions. So we see Trump pointing the finger on cue in the direction of China for the 2018 elections, of course, which we haven't even seen the results of, but we've seen the predictive programming from Alex Jones and other elements of controlled opposition. Something coming up on the 2018 election, already an increased number of tensions. Now, I'm an independent. I'm not batting for the left. I'm not batting for the right. But both sides, as I said for years, will target those that are not in the left-right paradigm and call them their political enemy. Despite that, right, I have tirelessly walked on. I've warned about Bush. I've warned about Obama. Yeah, I even get choked up even thinking about this. And I've gone through this with Trump, and it's like beyond this. It's like even almost trying to, I'm not a member of any religion, but it's like trying to wake someone up to some sort of a deep spiritual truth. And you would have thought that people understood a long time ago that the people that are placed in power have a warmongering agenda. And when you see people come up, right, and they're coming up and they're campaigning, and they're getting money from certain groups, and they get in office and they continue to do some of the things that previous presidents did, even though people wanted them to go a different direction, and you see the war chest build up, and you see the connection with the bankers. How long is this going to continue? You know, this is like a really bad version of idiocracy. It's a dangerous version, right? Because the whole nation's economy has been gambled on this. And so what? There's been some sort of a sell-off recently with regards to U.S. debt to the tune of $3 billion. That's another article I didn't bring in here. So let's go ahead and get into this, right? So I've taken a fair amount of time off from covering geopolitical news and things of that nature. What we're going to get into right now is from thisinsider.com. I'm going to try to get through most of this. President Donald Trump on Wednesday accused China of attempting to interfere in the 2018 midterms. He says, quote, "They do not want me or us to win because I am the first president ever to challenge China on trade," Trump said at a meeting of the U.S. Security Council in New York. Trump has been increasingly critical of China in recent months amid ongoing disagreements over trade. The president's advisors have said that Russia, China, Iran, and North Korea are all countries where there are potential culprits in the attempted interference. President Donald Trump on Wednesday accused China of attempting to interfere in the 2018 election. So this is a fairly new development. I actually grabbed this article a few nights ago. Okay, it's going over a lot of the same talking points. China's foreign minister addressed Trump's allegations before the UNSC, United Nations Security Council, and denied that China is working to interfere in the 2018 midterms, adding that Beijing refuses to accept any unwarranted accusations against it. Subsequently, Trump claimed in a tweet that China is placing propaganda in U.S. newspapers. And that's not to say that that's not the case. You know, a lot of people out there that have been fairly naive all these years, especially with regards to China and other things. You know, I'm not against cooperation and trade, people agreeing on things, people getting along, especially people from different parts of the world. U.S. citizens, Chinese citizens, etc., etc. Right? But we're talking about something different. We're talking about the strange bedfellows, the U.S. government and China. There's a lot of history of technology transfers between the United States and China, right? And it's been said that they've owned us for some time. Of course, people downplay the idea of things getting more challenging for the modern American, just simply saying that China already owns us, and not really like wargaming where this goes. And see, we've also seen a fair amount of people cry wolf with regards to full-on dollar collapse and sell-offs. There has been a move away from the US dollar. This is undisputed. But the full-on moves where it's all triggered, where it's all happening at once, that leads to the next Great Depression, we haven't seen that yet. But I do believe that what is coming is going to be far worse than 2008, 2009. That's why I try to live in an area where there's not a whole lot of people, but that's not going to stop locals from robbing each other. What's terrifying about this, this is one of the main concerns that I've had all these years. The stage managed conflict, it would begin with nationalism. He said, she said, and things building and building. People aren't ready for this. And they divided our nation by design, in advance, before whatever's coming. So there's all this built up animosity. Now, I want to go back to reading this, but I'm telling you, this is chilling. This is not like rip and read, oh, this is trending, I'm going to cover this. Like, this is at the core of the stuff that I've been discussing for years, way before Trump came on the scene and when Bush was still in office. We were talking about things building up to a certain point to where the powers that be, whether people choose to call it the Illuminati or something else, right? I don't really put a name on it. People prefer their names. People prefer to blame, right, their preferred political party. I think it's beyond that. But there has been this artificial rise of China. And then we've seen just the obvious intentions to destroy our economy from within for years. When you look at how much they've borrowed from China for wars that they're not even trying to win. That's obvious sabotage, obvious laundering potentially of countless U.S. tax dollars. Where's the concern been about with regards to that within our society? How much has been looted and in what specific ways that's taking place? How does it involve the wars? How have the wars been instrumental in breaking the back of America? From not only the soldiers when they come back from PTSD, but also, right, the demoralization, the wreckage that's been left around the world, the American image, the American pocketbook, the American present. You look at the mental health breakdowns, any video I do on the topic gets whoosh. And then, of course, we look towards the future. And we ask ourselves, are there other factors that are also playing a part in the suicide epidemic, for example, that we may not even be aware of when certain technologies do exist? So let's go back to the article and see. Alex Ansary can be the guy that's trying to warn people about this for a number of years, and he could be called a kook. The idea of war with China under Donald Trump, right? I would write that article a few years ago. Here we are 2 years ago, after I predicted that Trump was the real selection for the presidency, and we could see a conflict with Russia and China. No one touched that blog with a 10-foot pole. There's a point in discussing this. We're not even a society conscious enough when they overlook the people that got it right, where they want to even lie and say that everybody was predicting Hillary. Really? That's not what I recall saying in that interview that was actually not banned by YouTube, but deleted by the owner of that YouTube channel that didn't want him to be seen interviewing someone predicting Trump for the presidency and calling it before it happens. And so I think that Trump has been selected to push us further into this World War III agenda. And here we are 2 years later, and even if some people think they're waking up to the fact that they've been conned, I don't think that they're waking up to the fact how real this is. How limited on time the U.S. infrastructure is, and I think it even goes deeper. When we actually start to see the sword come out from the east, right, we're going to be seeing major interference with elements of U.S. banking. From companies to individual to other attempts to really put the clamp down. And that's what's concerned me all these years and has been one of the core reasons why I discuss geopolitics. And I'm not like some others that just focus on spirituality or Middle East news or solar flares or off-grid living, other forms of phenomena. I've always come back to this issue, this growing issue with China, and there are certain things, certain elephants in the room that a lot of people in our society would rather we not talk about. Hey, let's just watch another Netflix movie. Let us watch another action movie and get it out of our system. But it's like, okay, well, we're talking about movies here. I'll go ahead and let you read this as we scroll down, as I continue my thoughts. And we could see the buildup of movies before 9/11. Think about Arnold Schwarzenegger in True Lies, and that person coming out and sounding just like a member of ISIS, saying that, unless certain demands are being met, and he was doing the whole Arab, doing the whole caricature, I'm a very threatening individual, like the towers right behind him, or something like that. He's up in a tower. I think that was down in Miami where that scene was. And so there's been so much predictive programming before 9/11, we're starting to see it now. And I would even say more so in the video games. I remember looking forward, not in anticipation in a good way, but looking towards the future as one in which we would see more video games get really more direct with various geopolitical scenarios. And I don't play these games, but a lot of these games are just, these young kids are moving through and these futuristic battle suits. And here we are seeing Halo ads everywhere. And I've really noticed this in the last 10 years. The exoskeleton super soldier. That, I'm just going to go ahead and segue. Let's just read a few more points here. Let me see if we have this on the docket. Okay, we're coming back to that. Because it's not just about the U.S. and their super soldiers. We have Russia and China, and they all have remote viewing programs. Trump's recent condemnation of China has been sharper in tone than many of his statements towards Russia about election interference. So, again, I propose to you, this was a part of the script for Trump to play it cool for a while, and even those in the fan base to see him as this populist, and it's still in that arena, that's still existing. However he acts with China, there's just this mindset of apologizing for any action. Okay, yeah, now we're for it. Okay, now we're for it. I'm sure he knows what he's doing. Well, I'm sure he knows what he's doing too. The problem is there's not an agreement on what his true intentions are. Does it make sense to go into a casino and bet your mortgage, bet your car, bet your wife, bet your kids on a bet? You want to let it ride? Like the title of that movie from the late 80s, want to let it ride? Like some sort of, going to the horse races. Many a men in this nation, in U.S. history, have had that knock on the door from the collector from getting a little too involved in letting it ride and having to pay for that with their lives and what it puts their children through. So we, the children, or the slaves rather, of the U.S. Incorporated war chest, soon to be bankrupted, they've left us holding the bag. And that's the point. So there's ways in which they can manufacture a strong, strong dollar while they're sell-offs, but they move things around. The debt's getting worse. Their stakes are getting higher. The president has at times expressed skepticism over whether Russia interfered with the 2016 presidential election. And so there's a period in which he'll appear to side with either Putin or someone else. And then you'll see a shift. Then people aren't realizing, right? We, the people, are being played. There's something deeper to see here with regards to how all this is set up. So having said my piece there, okay, we look now in the direction of Stephen Hawking, right? And there's a lot of different things. I like to bring new pieces of information to articles like this that aren't directly connected, but could be. Stephen Hawking feared genetic engineering would create superhumans, a new race of superhumans that could destroy the rest of humanity if genetic engineering continues. Now, the scientist died in March, but left a collection of articles which outlined his concerns for the future of the human race. In his final book, in brief answers to the big questions out on Tuesday, Professor Hawking stated that he fears wealthy people will begin to edit their own and their children's DNA to create superhumans who will be more intelligent and live longer. And, you know, I've mentioned Netflix multiple times because I've never really sat down and really looked and seen what's beyond just the front page of Netflix. And there is so much transhumanistic programming, not necessarily promoting it, but a lot of dystopian themes. And while they demonize us for discussing and warning about these things, they call us conspiracy theories, the mainstream will still financially benefit from this organic interest in what will be the future of humanity. You know, we look at how close we've grown with cell phones. And I have a very strong disdain for cell phones, and I think that anyone with any health complications should ditch their cell phone. I think that people should also override a feeling of their ego being bruised if issues like this are being brought up. I realize YouTube analytics, most people watch videos on their mobile. Hey, I'm old school. I'm still going to promote other alternative modern ways of doing it, like watching something that you don't hold with your actual hand that's connected to actual towers, but watching YouTube videos on a traditional laptop, which in today's day and age, somebody can buy for $100 or $200. So there are options if people choose to be really connected with cell phone technology. Some of those cell phones, iPhones certainly, are worth way more than, for example, this $300 laptop. Now with the cracked screen, now in its third year, I'm grateful to have it, right? But I've hung on to this way of life for a reason. I also think it's how we use certain things. There are also other articles, they talk about a more mindful use of virtual reality technology to help people get over certain mental illnesses. Now, if there's an alternative to psychiatric drugs, and they can help someone with virtual reality or some other form of technology to get over certain stuck images or phobias, knowing a little bit about meditation, how stuck images can cause energy blockages, we have yet to really even scratch the surface of the positive use of technology to help us understand the world in a deeper way. So, you know, people need to learn, I would say, the species, that life is more than video games that focus on blowing up foreign countries. That's pretty modern ape man, ape woman as you can possibly get. If someone's taking offense to that, well, first of all, if someone's even in that mindset, I think they got bigger problems than being offended. That is an incredibly unhealthy stepping stone towards genetically modifying the species to get them from gathering, hunter-gatherer, natural things to this type of thing, even more so mating rituals where men and women, women and men, whoa, females and males, males and females will hook up, and it will be part of the sexual mating ritual for boys and girls of this culture to blow things up and fall in love in the act of doing so. And I think that itself could be a picture that the future world can look at to understand just what happened here. I'm Alex Ansary, reminding you the path to the ultimate truth and place of power still lies within. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please like, share, and subscribe.